Welcome to a new but different Exiled video. I don't normally do these sorts of videos where I'm just rambling and answering some questions off you guys, but we did recently hit 30,000 subscribers on the channel, so thank you for getting me to that milestone. Took a bit longer than I was expecting, I can't lie, but yeah, reality checks and all that, but I can't lie, in between 20 and 30k, it has been the case that I've uploaded a load of videos that I do think are some of my best that I have ever done on the channel, but yeah, I've really enjoyed making a load of the content that I have done, so let's just jump straight into some of the first questions. However, the first two aren't really like proper questions. I'm going to read them out anyway, just so that you are aware that I've seen them, and I'll let you know whether or not there's something that interests me. The first person is called Aspect 2 Blade. So there you go, that's the name. And the question is, I wonder how Nintendo started and how it became the company of today. In other words, the history of Nintendo. I'm assuming you took this as more of a like, what ideas would you like to hear? And yeah, so yeah, the history of Nintendo is something that I wouldn't be like anti making a video about. However, if I'm honest, it's one of those things that I know would have to be a very big project. I'd have to do a lot of digging into it because I'm 22, so obviously the company is, what, older than me, I believe. I'm 100% sure that is the case. It's bordering probably like an extra like third of my life, if not a little bit more than that. So yeah, it is the case that I'd have to do a lot of research, probably get a few of you guys in on trying to give me some info about what it was like to play games back then and whatnot. So it is something that I wouldn't be anti-doing. However, it is the case that I would have to do a lot to understand and truly get a grip of kind of understanding where everything fits into place and where it then fits into place of how I view Nintendo, especially nowadays. The next one comes from Brian Rise 954, which says an insight into mobile gaming market with a focus on how and why big players are entering via the FPS genre, or rather tried to, such as Warzone, Apex, Rainbow, Battlefield, etc. How could this affect the future of gaming across all platforms? Now, this is definitely a topic that is well within like something that I could make a video about, as I do think I haven't necessarily done anything on this topic, but everything that I've discussed on the channel kind of lingers around, I guess, this topic of too much money being shoved into the gaming space, and specifically how monetization has become rampant, and you know, many companies have kind of turned to mobile gaming to supplement a lot of their income. So it would definitely be interesting to take a look into that and properly deep dive into it. So you never know, that is a good video idea, so I'm definitely gonna, you know, take that to one side and be thinking about it. The next question comes from a guy who I'm assuming the name is meant to be like Icy Dragon, so there you go. What are your real life hobbies apart from gaming, and did you have a dream of who you wanted to be when you would grow up eventually? So first of all, like I've said a minute ago, I'm only 22, so it's the case that like life is still figuring it out and all that sort of thing. You know, I'm nowhere near it. I've seen so many other creators talk about this, which is that at no point in your life do you really feel like you know what you want to do until eventually it just kind of clicks. It's kind of just some random thing that you realize, oh, this is what I want to be doing. So yeah, when it comes to like a dream, I guess YouTube is the closest thing. I wasn't very good at education, hence why a lot of the videos you'll definitely hear me making mistakes, probably already in this one when it comes to my own English, because yeah, I sucked at English in particular at school. I absolutely hated the subject, and it was the case that I literally, the only thing that I enjoyed out of it was creative writing. It was the only thing that interested me, and they got rid of it for the most part later on in GCSEs. I didn't really have any interest in that, and it led to me just being not great, but you know what, I have a job right now that technically is within the field of just writing essays for a living, so there is that. Now, when it comes to a dream, like I said, YouTube is basically the only thing. I've got other things going that I'm kind of thinking about and kind of contemplating on doing, and I'm currently, when you guys see this video, I will be away, so you're not going to see a video next week. However, my intent is to really think through this kind of topic, not necessarily like, oh, what is my dream for where I want to go, but really thinking about what my next steps are, and you will be updated on that because this channel is a big part of what is my life, so there's that. When it comes to other hobbies, I guess the like main set, and I think this all depends on what you classify as hobbies, so you've got reading, which is one of them. Now, I'm not like an avid reader, I'm not someone who reads every day. I would like to, however, I always have to build up to it. It's very hard for me to really get into place of like the habit of doing it, and that's why I say like it depends on what your belief is around it. Like, reading can be a hobby, however, I also heavily view it as more of like a habit to do, so there is that. that. Outside of that, obviously there's things like the gym, as much as that can be a hobby, I guess. I don't really feel like it is though. It's more like a habit in my mind. Really, outside of that though, I guess the only things that I would kind of classify as like actual hobbies, because this is a big thing that again I've been thinking about. I've discussed this on my self-improvement channel about wanting to get into other hobbies, and I am intending to actually make sure to do so. The closest things is that I'll enjoy the occasional Sudoku. So yeah, great Sudoku quizzes out there. And yeah, outside of that, I guess like some of the other channels really, and just doing those sorts of things where it could be my self-improvement side of things and kind of doing a bit more videography. There's photography as well. That's another hobby. So that's a other one that I used to do way more of, and the day that I'm recording this anyway, I did a wedding shoot for my sister, so there is that as well. But yeah, outside of those, there isn't a ton of hobbies that I have that I would kind of classify as hobbies per se, but it is the case that I'm working on it. I want to do more things that are way more outdoors-esque, way more sport-related activity. I guess driving range stuff to do with golf is kind of one of them as well, but yeah. The next question comes from Hans Franz, which says, how do you choose your video topics? Like, do you have criteria? Is this just out random? Now, when it comes to it, I do have I have a small criteria. However, I've kind of hit a point now where I know roughly kind of what works, what doesn't. And yes, every now and again, I'll have like genuine misses where some videos just don't perform that well. Typically, the ones that are positive don't perform well, which is really annoying because it means that I'll have comments where so many people will be like, oh, all you make is negative videos. And it's like, if you just take a minute to look at my channel, you'll see that this year I've probably made a few like positive videos that are like actually way better than some of the more negative ones from the past. And the issue is that the negative ones are the ones that do way better on YouTube and whatnot, so there is that. Now, when it comes to like any criteria, there used to be a specific criteria, which was, am I interested in it? Is it relevant? And then the other one was, is there longevity? I believe those were kind of like the three main ones. It is the case that there used to be a criteria. Nowadays it is far more just random and like, oh, here's an idea. So I've got a few ideas. I'm not going to go over them right now, but if I went over like the past ones, for example, up on my wall here that I've got when it comes to different ideas, I had on there 2025 will be the best year for gaming, feeling guilty while playing games, the decline in bite-sized games, which is a video that you will see soon. It's almost done. The script is basically almost there. It was originally going to be released this week, but yeah, I wasn't able to finish it on time. And then I've got a few others. Then you also saw the more recent one, which was talking about immersion within games. So a lot of them are kind of like, oh, I want to build off of ideas that I've already discussed in the past. The immersion video is a big example of that, as that video in itself was a build off and scale off of a video I made about 2 to 3 years ago now. I think 2 years ago would be the correct answer. But yeah, it is the case that I kind of don't really have a criteria anymore. I just have random thoughts enter my head. I've got a few notes on my Apple Notes where if a video idea comes to my head, I'll note it down. And if it's something that kind of interests me when I come around to needing to come up with a load of video ideas, then it will make it to the actual list of videos that will be in the development process. The next question is from Janos, who is also a Patreon member. So yeah, thank you again for supporting the Patreon. Now, specifically, his question talks about, do I have a particular main original character? If so, can you tell us a little bit about them? Okay, so I would say in terms of like what you were kind of guessing when it comes to the idea around like Skyrim related stuff, I've always struggled with RP generally and creating my own character in games like Skyrim. I've kind of just played games like it through the lens of kind of like, oh, what do I want to do? And normally I just let them do whatever. I would just kind of enter into like a completionist-esque like mode. However, when it comes to like original characters and creating them, I think the closest thing for me ever has been, and creating like backstory and whatnot, has been GTA RP by miles. So yeah, if I was to go over like one of my, like I've got two of them. I don't remember the actual character name for the second one. However, the first one I definitely do. So the first one was called Tommy Morado, and me and my friends, we created a cartel in this GTA roleplay server. Now, in terms of like stories from the character, a lot of it had to do with like immigrating into the US, as the typical thing does for most RP, because you land in the airport and whatnot and you start off there. But yeah, outside of that, we have things to do with the gang and what we did. So we did some stuff like multiple different heists. We found out so much more information about how the police had way more information about us as a gang than any of us thought. One of the best stories, I guess, which is kind of like a story that's not roleplay related, but it kind of is. So we had these two guys as a part of our gang who were like drug sellers, and yeah, they were a part of like this section of the gang that we didn't really care about. We were primarily focusing on like gun trade with other people, and what ended up happening was a guy who we used as a like step ladder to get us to where we were at that point as like a cartel and became like the biggest gun seller on the server, which was a big deal at the time because of like some of the other people. Like the biggest gun seller before that was like people who were just admins, and the server was really specific about who they were allowed to do different things. They were really just sticky with like different info, and they were just a bit annoying. They didn't like change, for example. It was very, very irritating to try and do anything on the server. But when it came to it, we ended up having this guy who helped us originally start off. He would give us some guns that we could then sell, so he was acting as like the original seller, and then we would just resell them. Now, this guy found out about these other guys who were doing some drug stuff. One guy, who was one of the brothers, decided to shoot him randomly, and it led to him talking to us because obviously we were the ones in charge, and we had to take him to a warehouse and shoot him, then burn him, because that's like the only way to kind of like kill off a character properly and guarantee that they can't just keep coming back. However, he then started just shouting at us out of character, started having a go at us and complaining. I was recording my screen at the time, and so was the other guy, so it was like the case of like failed RP, you can get banned, or at least you can get a ban of some sort for a period of time. And yeah, like it was just the case that the guy kind of just lost it because he felt like he was fully betrayed, but we were doing like the in-character thing. Like if we have a relationship with this one guy, we want to keep the relationship there. We don't care about this other thing, so we were cutting him out of it. And what, like, yes, he was betrayed in the sense of his character was betrayed, but he took it way too seriously as an attack on his person. But yeah, I've got other stories when it comes to GTA roleplay stuff, and I'd really have to actually think through a lot of it to fully remember and tell you. I might make a video in the future that's kind of like a stories of GTA roleplay or something like that, and maybe dive deep into like creating lore for these characters that could come out of not even being GTA RP anymore, and create some form of my own story around it, which would be pretty cool to do, as I'm interested in doing something like it in the future. Now, another question, which kind of has another follow-up question of some sort in there from Codex, which is, what are your expectations for GTA 6? Follow-up question, do you think GTA 6 will be more like full in on the story or online? For context, both GTA 5 and RDR2 gained massive success in their own fields. GTA 5 gained massive success through its online, and RDR2 gained success from its story. So all in all, do you think Rockstar will go full in on story or online or both? I just want to hear your opinion. Now, in terms of expectations for GTA 6, I think I mentioned this in my 2025 could be the best year for gaming video, and that is, I don't really have too much of an expectation. I trust Rockstar entirely to just make a good game. Like GTA 5, I loved GTA 4. I didn't really care about RDR1 at the time. I want to go and actually play it properly and give it a go and like take a look at it, even with the lens of like how it looks in comparison to RDR2 and whatnot, and try and hopefully just let the looks aside and allow me just to enjoy the story. But yeah, RDR2, I absolutely love the story as well. Now, I do think that the comment about GTA 5, it's kind of true in the sense of like, yes, they gained massive success monetarily and from pure scale anyway of a player base through the online. However, GTA 5 originally sold well because of its story. Like, people wanted to play GTA 5 and play the characters because that's what all of the sales was pretty much around it. Yes, there was some stuff to do with the online, but there wasn't tons of stuff. And on top of that, if you remember when GTA 5 first came out, you couldn't access the online for like the first 2 to 3 weeks, I think, or even up to a month, which forced people to play the story. And I honestly think that that's a better way of doing it. I think if I was Rockstar, yes, it wouldn't be the monetary best thing to do, but I would release GTA 6, not let people play the online for like a couple weeks, so it forces people to play the story, as I do think the story of GTA 5 was great. Now, in terms of it, what do I think they're going to do? I do think that they are going to probably try to do their best at both. I think they've always done a good job. I think GTA 5, they did do that. They effectively just doubled down on what was good, which was their multiplayer, and their single player was already really good, and they just decided to divert their issue of, you know, oh, we could make DLC for 5, or we could just shove it into online content. So they chose to go that route. I wouldn't be surprised if GTA 6 follows something similar, so they're going to make a really good story, they're going to create a really good base game, and then they're going to have the online and pretty much ditch any care towards any DLC. RDR2, to my knowledge, didn't get any actual like proper story related DLC. So I doubt we're going to see anything like it within GTA 6. I think they're just going to go for both in terms of just making a good story and then just having a multiplayer that just lives on. GTA has the benefit of being more modern and they can just get away with adding more and more crazy stuff, whereas the RDR Online can't. Even though people wanted it to be really successful, I think the only way they could have made it successful is if they had bought 5M before then, and they were integrating roleplay into the online, or at least that's my take on it anyway. Next question is from Danny Bratt, which is, what is your motivation to do what you do here on YouTube? Now, this is kind of changed and developed, I guess, over time. If I'm being upfront now, a lot of it does end up coming down to money because it is my job, which is really kind of annoying, and it's why I'm looking to kind of take a step back to a degree. I know it kind of sucks to hear someone say, oh, it's money, but I am just being honest with you. When it comes to it though, with a lot of the content that I do make, it's all based off of personal experience, so things like the feeling guilty while gaming, the immersion video, it's all based off of things that I think are relevant and interesting to me anyway, of what I think should be focused on. I have an issue with feeling guilty when I do play games, and I found a way around it, and that kind of leads me to what the original motivation was for the channel, which was to be able to play games, override a perfectionist issue, which was I'd feel guilty for not doing anything else that wasn't playing a game, even though I was doing other things. Like, I was literally doing everything else, and then I would play a game, and I would just feel guilty for playing like 30 minutes, and I'd play 30 minutes for like once a week, and it'd be like, oh, yeah, you could be doing anything else right now, even though I wouldn't be doing anything else. I'd end up just going and sitting and watching YouTube, or I'd end up scrolling TikTok or something like that. So I ended up overriding this by just making content about whatever game I was playing. It led to things like my RDR2 video and whatnot, which was really cool to do. And yeah, that's kind of like the motivations generally. In terms of now, like I said, money is a big factor. I think I probably lied a little bit in saying like it was the only factor. I kind of lied when it came to just saying that it was all about money. Like, obviously that is a big factor. I'd say that's like at this point like a 70 to like maybe a 60 to 70% factor of like some of the content I'll make. For example, if you look at any of the videos that I've recently released, I would say that they are coming from a place of like what I'm interested in. So if we just take a look at like the last 3 months, I released my Why Do FPS Games Suck Now, which is all about one of the biggest issues that I've found, which is I'm just not enjoying FPS games. Is it me? Is it the case that it could be the case that I'm just not playing with the right people? It could be the case that they're sucking now because of the heavy monetization aspects and all that. Like, these are all things that I've thought about. The games that left an impact was one video that I really wanted to make for ages, and then I got around to making it, and yeah, I think it's a great video all around. I think it's a video that's probably up there as one of the better ones in overall. Assassin's Creed, Can It Be Saved? I made that over the course of about 3 days, and I really like how that video came out. Again, it's kind of like a summary of the franchise, but then giving you my take on if shadows can change. Like, again, I care about the franchise. That's why I decided to make a video about it. Then a video of, was gaming actually better when we were younger? Now, I decided to make that video for 2 reasons. One is that obviously it links in heavily to what has done well in the past. However, the other actual reason for making that video had more to do with it being something that I've genuinely thought about. Like, when people do say this, and I've had it in my comments section so many times that our games were way better when we were younger. But if that was true, we would just go back and play those and we wouldn't care about talking about the modern games. And I don't think it's necessarily true, and that's kind of what I explore in that video. I then made a video that was outside of gaming about John Bellion, which I think is a good video. Then we've got what made Red Dead 2 amazing. Again, I really enjoyed making that video. I liked revisiting Red Dead for that video and just enjoying the process of just creating that. Then the future of gaming looks kind of amazing. Again, really positive video. I actually really enjoyed making that video. Again, these are all videos that I've really been enjoying doing recently. Over the last like 3 months, I feel like I changed my like main tact at going about making these videos and kind of just focusing on what I enjoy and what resonates with me. Feeling guilty while gaming is another one in there, and then obviously I ranked Assassin's Creed games perfectly, which is more like a remake than anything else. I just wanted to redo it and make it better than the original, which I think I did by miles. And then struggling to get immersed as I age. Again, a great video in my opinion, and I also think that it links heavily to that topic of something that I've been dealing with, where I genuinely just struggle to get immersed. So I just decided to talk about it and make videos out of it. All in all, the motivations right now is like 60 to 70% is finance related, and then the 40 to 30% is just, hey, is this relevant to me right now? Is it something that I'm interested in right now? So those are kind of the main two forms of motivation as of right now. The next couple questions come from a guy called Nobi Wand. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I have no clue. But yeah, it says, new to the channel, enjoyed the kids I've watched so far. Okay, I'm assuming the only people that you've been watching are, I'm going to hope when you say kids is above 18 and you're just meaning it in the terms of you're just a bit older. But when it comes to it, we've got, what games at the moment are you playing, and what kind of content do you enjoy when it comes to watching YouTube? The first part of that, when it comes to games that I'm actually playing, at the moment it is CS, if I'm honest. I ended up quitting it. I hit 1,000 hours and I decided to retire from my CS account. Outside of that, I started playing Sekiro. I'm probably going to restart it when I come back, because I always struggle getting back into games when I've just like started them and then I come back and I try and like pick up from there. Again, outside of that, I've been really struggling to play anything recently, mainly because when I'm making a video every week, it really just kind of rips apart my time of what I have available, especially when I add on there studying, and then I also add on there having any form of life outside of doing YouTube content. So it is the case that I just haven't really been playing too much currently. And I do want to play some more. I did pick up a load of great games at the Steam Summer Sale. If you want to know what those were, then join the Discord. I did mention it in there as well. The content that I enjoy watching on YouTube, most of it isn't even gaming related anymore, if I'm honest. It used to be, and I've kind of just fell out of just enjoying watching it. The only gaming YouTubers that I really watch nowadays would be SkillUp, and then someone like Dark Viper for his like really great GTA videos. I think they're absolutely superb. But outside of that, I don't really watch too much gaming content. I've just kind of fell out of love with a lot of it, and as I've kind of partaked in myself, I feel like a lot of it is just overwhelmingly negative, and that's why you've kind of seen this kind of change of what my content is recently, where it's either focused on like a personal experience that I'm building into it that can kind of come off negative, but it's not meant to be. It's always got that positive thing to it in the end. And the other type of content when it comes to it with YouTube that I've been making is just actually positive stuff, where it's like, oh, it's actually going to be a great year, instead of every single doomer mindset and everyone's like just hate bandwagoning of what normally happens right now. When it comes to what I actually watch, mainly at this current stage, it's just like basically just random people's like day in the lives sort of things, just random stuff like that, tech videos, self-improvement related videos, podcasts. Outside of that, like I haven't been watching too much stuff. I obviously watch people like the Sidemen for people in the UK. Most people I feel like at this point in the UK that I've ever met around my age basically will watch the Sidemen. But yeah, outside of those few people, I wouldn't say there's too many out there that I'm like actually watching specifically for them. But yeah, those are kind of the sorts of areas that I'm watching. Self-improvement, some form of gaming. I guess Sidemen can be gaming related. But yeah, that's about it right now. The other question is there a video game you would like to see adapted into a TV show or movie that hasn't happened so far? Now, I think the answer for me would be like RDR2, but they would need to make it into like a multiple part. But I honestly don't even know if I would want an adaptation, more so that I would just want a series or movie based within the world, and maybe having some of the characters from the game being brought in. And I think that would work out better. I don't really like too many of the video game adaptations. I think the Mario movie was really good. Outside of that, the Fallout TV show was really good. I couldn't get into The Last of Us. I just found it boring, if I'm honest. And I've played the game so many times that I already know what's going to happen. And yeah, it's just not interesting to me. And most of the other video game adaptations generally haven't done particularly well. The next question comes from Coolpix, which says, what is your take on DEI in video games and consultancy companies like Sweet Baby Inc? Now, I think I gave a little bit of a take on this in one of my other videos. My general overview is that I'm not anti a company existing that wants to like push for or like inclusivity or some form of like political belief. I'm not against them existing as long as they're like open and honest that they're doing it for those reasons, then I think it's fine. I don't agree with the tactics that they use, for example, like bullying companies into taking them on, because if they don't, then employees will just, just start telling public stuff about, their company that they're not meant to. So yeah, I would say that I'm not anti companies existing to do it. Does that mean I want it in the games? Generally, no. I don't think that there's any point of forcing something to happen when it doesn't make sense to. So if a game is set in Europe in 1200 like in the 12th century, we'll say, okay, most people in that time in history were white Europeans for the most part. So that would make sense for why a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance is pretty much all white Europeans. And if you decide to now swap out half of those to be black people, for example, it would be the case that it just kind of makes no sense. You're just adding them in for the sake of adding it in. Now, if it was a game set in something like Egypt, like Assassin's Creed Origins, then I think they did a great job in that game. The majority of people in that game are people from Arab descent. They are people who actually make sense for where they're located. I'm not against games having any form of like cultures brought in or having any form of like aspirations added in of what they want to have as like, oh, we want to have more black people in games, we want to have more Asian people in games, whatever it might be. I don't care if they want that, as long as it makes sense for why they're there. Past that, I don't care. If it was the case that they're just forcing it in for the sake of it, I'm anti that. But like I said, if it makes sense for the story, then outside of that, I don't really care. It's something like my take on Assassin's Creed Shadows right now is that, yes, I do think that it's kind of just stupid. They might as well have just put 2 Japanese characters in. I think that would have just made sense. They've done it for every single other game that they've ever made besides, well, Black Flag. And even then, it makes sense for why Edward's there. So I don't see why they didn't do it for this game. It does kind of feel like they've done it specifically to kind of gain some brownie points. However, I'm not really making too much of my opinion made on the game right now. I honestly am going to pick it up and I'm going to make my opinion based on what the game delivers and if it makes sense for why Yasuke exists within the world and all this sort of thing. I don't care outside of that. If the game delivers a good story and a good gameplay experience, I think that it can be overlooked. And like I said, companies like Sweet Baby Inc. I'm not a fan of. I don't like the way that they go about doing things. However, if they exist and they're open and honest about it, I don't really mind. And the last comment is from a guy called Kano, and it says, why are you such a cool person? Honestly, don't think I am, but sure, thank you. And yeah, when it comes to it, I don't really know how to answer that question because, yeah, it doesn't really open anything up for it.
And even though I did say that that was going to be the final question, I do have a couple more that I missed, so I'm going to go over them real quick now. So 2 of them are from Kiwi, who is another member in the Discord. So one of the questions is, out of any game, what do you think deserves a remake? And I think the open and easy answer for me would be Assassin's Creed 2. I think Assassin's Creed 2 is the only game that I'd be like, this needs to be remade from scratch, give us a little bit better parkour, and pretty much just make the game what it is, and just leave it as it is, just make the parkour a little bit better, make the not oversaturation, the extreme white balance issue sorted, get rid of the overexposure, and yeah, fix that aspect, and they would sell well, and they would just sell probably millions upon millions of copies. That probably goes for Assassin's Creed 1 as well. If they remade the whole Ezio collection, I think the Assassin's Creed community would probably break. So yeah, that is probably going to be my answer. Then Kiwi's next question is, what's some underrated / not well known but good games you know? Now, I would probably say the main answer I would probably give for this is Sleeping Dogs. It's always a game that like is underrated, but it's kind of, I would say, it's always hovered between like, not necessarily like extremely unknown, but it's like kind of near it, where a lot of people just didn't know of the release, a lot of people just write it off as a GTA clone, and if I'm honest, I think a lot of people just, like I said, just don't even know the game exists. And I think it's an amazing game. It holds up to this day. The graphics still look insane, especially in the cutscenes anyway. and the gameplay works, it's perfectly fine. I think that it's probably one of the better games that you could play that's an underrated / unknown title, but outside of that I wouldn't really have too many other answers. Then the actual final question comes from M2D977. Now if I'm taking a guess, I think you are in the Discord, if the name links up with the person that I'm thinking of, which is, do you miss any genre that we haven't seen lately, like FPS story and hack and slash? Now, I'd probably say FPS story is probably the only one that I would say, because I feel as if, at least in Far Cry's terms, there hasn't been any good game like Far Cry in a very long time, and I'd like to see a good Far Cry game that isn't like what Far Cry has become, where it's just the same thing repeated every single time. So there is that, but also I feel like Call of Duty has been missing for quite a while. They've had some in and out good stories, but for me, I'd say my favourite COD story out of any of the games, and it's going to be a controversial take, is Advanced Warfare. I think Advanced Warfare's campaign was really good, and I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I'd really be interested to see more stuff like it, where games do venture off into those territories. Outside of that, really the only other genre that I feel like we've missed out on a lot lately is the likes of I guess the Civ kind of style, where you've got the tactical over-the-board-esque sort of style. And yeah, I'd be really interested to see when Civ 7 comes out, which should be next year, hopefully, and I can't wait to get my hands on that game.
But yeah, with that all being said though, hopefully you guys did enjoy this. I know it's very rambly, but yeah, it's been a long day for me. I had about 5.5 hours sleep, shot my sister's wedding, and then yeah, I've decided to do some other stuff before going away. So yeah, hopefully you guys can bear with me when it comes to how rambly this video is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you do want to join the Discord, please do, it'll be down below. There won't be a video next week, as I said, as I am away, and I will probably be updating you in 2 weeks time on kind of what's going to be happening moving forward with the channel, whether that is videos being changed from a weekly upload schedule to something else, or just kind of what is going to happen, really. Am I going to be sticking with this as my primary thing and whatnot? So yeah, with that all being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure to join the Discord, join the Patreon if you are interested in supporting me directly, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.